can intent data be integrated into Salesforce automation, marketing automation, or any other systems out there?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes, and it should be. Right. The long answer we'll talk about, and first, the first thing to understand is, of course, can you integrate it? Right? Are you working with a partner who can seamlessly push over the data directly into your marketing automation system or directly into your CRM? And I think that's something that's really important, right? Is to understand, somebody that I'm working with able to manipulate the fields of the spreadsheet, or through an API integration, right? Directly put contacts over, from, for example, TechTarget Priority Engine into Marketo or Eloqua or something like that. The other thing, and I think this is something where a lot of marketers sort of, not because they're not paying attention to it, but I just don't think it's commonly thought of. But it's not just about providing new records and new contacts. That's always important, right? To make sure that you're bringing contacts and they're the newest, they're the latest, they're the greatest. But there's also something to be said when we talk about it within the realm of intent data, of also updating existing records, updating existing information around these accounts. And again, it goes back to this idea of being able to understand and make decisions through data, right? So if you're constantly adding new data points to these accounts or to these contacts, you're able to make more informed data decisions, or I should say decisions via data. And then the last thing, right, is the hardest thing, right, which is tracking attribution, making sure that you're able to match back not just that contact or that account to an individual campaign, but to understand holistically, right, what are the channels that drove me from meeting to opportunity to close. And I think that's really incredibly important, specifically from a marketing planning perspective, right? You don't want to just put your eggs in one basket, right? You don't just want to focus on where you made that sale, right? You don't want to just focus on events, so to speak, right? You want to make sure that you're covering everywhere, because we know buyers are everywhere. We know buyers are showing up to webinars. We know buyers are reading white papers. We know buyers are, sometimes doing their own research, where they're sometimes reaching out directly to a sales rep. But you want to make sure that you're focusing on where your buyers are. And the best way of doing that is to accurately track attribution, and not just at the point where you made that win, but all those other points or that journey to where they eventually got to close. And this is just a really simple checklist. This is something that when me and my team work with marketers, it's just a way of doing what we refer to as a health check, right? And helping marketers define success, from the early stage, right? Which is looking at contact volume, bringing in new logos, focusing on what those email engagements look like. The mid stage, right? Which is focusing on conversions from when you bring those contacts in to bring them into being marketing qualified leads or sales qualified leads. And then of course the late stage, right? Which we touched on previously, but understanding that influence, understanding those opportunities have been opened against whatever that data source you're pulling from. The other thing, and these are some recommendations on reports that I think a lot of marketers and marketing ops professionals in particular should be pulling or creating, I should say, is reporting on things like contact import. What are the number of contacts that you brought in from this source? Providing reporting on email, right? Emails, engagements, because that's going to give you a general sense of, hey, we took, 10 or 1,000 contacts from this source, but we're not seeing the performance. That should give you a really good indication that, hey, maybe that source isn't necessarily where you need to be in terms of outreach, because they're not giving you exactly what you want. So, it's this continued measurement of success. And the only way you can do that is not just through tracking through attribution, but tracking through the engagements as they go through that whole entire life cycle, or that whole entire customer journey.